Hey, Facebook. It's Christy with Team Podcast and Podcast Rescue, and I'm so excited. Today is day 17 of the Facebook Live Challenge. So 17 days straight, I've forced myself to get on front of the video camera and do videos and share a little bit of either about life or podcasting or that sort of thing with you. So today is day 17. We're going for a 30-day challenge. So we're over halfway there, and it'll take us all through the end of the year. So jury duty did not last all day. I'm out. I'm getting ready to head home. And I wanted to talk to you about something really quickly that keeps coming up again and again and again. It comes up with clients. It comes up with the Facebook groups that I'm in, and people keep asking these questions over and over. And it's about show notes. And do I need them? If I do need them, how extensive do they need to be? I'm spending way too much time on them. Could I cut them out? Do you have to have them? So my question to you is not necessarily do you need show notes, but what are your show notes doing for you? So let's look at it the way that the computer and the internet looks at it. Whenever you upload an audio or you embed an audio player on your website, Google and any other search engine, Bing or whoever else, cannot index that audio. So they can't use it for SEO purposes. What they can use is the blog post and or / the show notes that are with each show that you should post on your website. Now, here's the controversial part of this, and I might have a very different view than a lot of people do. And here's my controversial statement. Let me just put it out there. Show notes are really not for your listeners. They're not for your listeners. Show notes are for two different things. First of all, they are for the SEO that you can get from Google and whatever else. When you can make them keyword rich, you can make them readable, you can make them very SEO friendly in that blog post. And that's the only way you can get that audio and that blog post indexed, is to have an accompanying blog post. Now, the other part is, you have to think about it like this. When you're seeing most people come and listen to your podcast, most of the time they're finding you through mobile, right? They're finding you through the app that they're listening on, whether it's going to be an Android app, whether it's going to be the iTunes app. They're finding you through the app. And so when you do that, they listen to your show, and the holy grail is for them to actually listen to your call to action and go to your website or wherever else you're sending them with your call to action. Now, one of the things you have to remember is you don't want to have too many calls to action, because you want it to be very clear and repetitive so that it can be sticky in their brain. They can listen and they can, basically remember it without having to think about what was it, where do I need to go, because they'll never get to your website. So it's really a big deal when you take people that are on their mobile phone, they're at the gym, they're in a parking lot getting ready to leave jury duty and that sort of thing, and they're listening to a podcast. To get them to stop and go to your website is a huge deal, and it's not going to happen very often. I don't even know what the close rates are, the conversion rates are, if you get people to your website, but it's very, very low. So you're getting the people that listen to your mobile on the website. You want them to come there. But if you have people that find you on your website, you want them to go to and bring you on mobile. So you actually want those people on your website to listen to you. You want them to listen to the show. So one of the things about it is your show notes. And hey, Tammy Hostler, or Cantrell, oops, sorry. Talking about show notes, can you believe that? How ironic. But the one thing that you want to do is you want to make your show notes juicy enough that someone needs to listen to the audio to get the full impact of what you're saying. In other words, if I spend 2 hours writing a blog post for a 20-minute audio, and it goes into every single detail that we talked about, every single thing is linked up, there's no mystery there, there's nothing in that blog post that someone can't get by not listening to the audio, you don't want to do that. You want to make it juicy enough, enticing enough, because when people find you on your website, what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to convert them to a listener of your audio. And then whenever they listen to your audio, then they can listen to your calls to action and that sort of thing. So you definitely want juicy bullet points. You want things to be in a easily readable fashion. So in other words, if I'm doing a health podcast and I'm talking about I'm just making stuff up, okay? But if I talk about the top 2 reasons that women become hospitalized is because of high blood pressure and diabetes. You don't want to say in a bullet point like diabetes and blood pressure are 2 of the main reason women are hospitalized. You would want to say, listen to learn the 2 top reasons women are hospitalized, and so they have to listen to find out those 2 top reasons. Those are the type things that make your bullet points juicy and that make your content juicy and makes people want to listen to the show. They can listen to the show and then they can fall in love with you because they love your content, and then eventually they'll get to your website back around there to take more of your resources, buy your courses, or whatever else you're doing. So do you need show notes? Yes, you do. What are they doing for you? They're not doing anything for your listener. So if you're going gangbusters and doing, 2 and 3 hour blog posts that you're writing to make it so detailed that you can't turn it over to anybody else, you can't outsource it, and you're just wanting it so detailed, unless you're doing that as like a premium upgrade, which I have seen people do as an opt-in, they have like normal show notes, and then if you want the detailed ones, you can opt into their email list and get those. I've also seen some people do some other things, and we'll talk about transcripts and other things like that later on, but you'll see people do some different things. So unless you're getting some kind of return above and beyond the normal podcast for the amount of time you're putting in your show notes, it really should not take you that long to summarize. Write a few keyword rich paragraphs, write some bullet points that are juicy and enticing. The important thing you do want to do is link up your resources, because those resources are why your listeners would come to your actual webpage to look up the show. So you want to make it easy for them to find the resources that you've linked up so they'll come back there later. But really, that's all you need. I mean, you don't need a blog post. There was a lady on a Facebook group the other day that was just, I'm laboring over this. I can't turn it over to my VA because, she won't do it exactly like I'm doing. And even if I do get her to write it, then I'm spending 3 hours editing it. And it's like, it's not that critical. And so understand, it's really not for your listeners. Your content that you're giving your listeners should be above and beyond what the podcast is. So it's either going to be premium content or something else that they need to opt into to get more than what's already readily available for free out there. So hope that helps. Hope that clarifies a little bit about what you should put on your website for show notes. And the more readable, and I will tell you that if you're using a WordPress website, the Yoast SEO plugin, and that's Yoast, Yoast, SEO plugin is a really good plugin. And if you'll use it below your web post, it will have a place where you can put in your keywords. You can edit your snippets that are going to be appearing whenever you post, which is the little blurbs that appear when you post your link somewhere. It'll also let you go to a social media tab, and it'll let you upload images or specify certain blurbs for just the social media channels. So if you use that plugin, it will give you an overall ranking of your SEO for each post based on the keyword that you set for that. So that's a really, really great way to sort of double check yourself and just make sure, okay, do I have, am I in the green for my SEO on my show notes? And if you are, then at that point in time, you can know, okay, this is pretty good for my keyword search. But here's the other thing that you have to look at. Organic search for podcasts is not going to be as easy as you think it is, because you're competing sometimes for the same keywords that other people are competing for that are actually paying, like for ads and space to be sponsored and that sort of thing. So if, for example, if it was Valentine's Day and I did a show about love or falling in love, if love or falling in love is a keyword that I want to rank for in SEO, there's no chance in the world I'm going to rank for that, because all these other paid advertisements are going to be up there because they're advertising Match.com or what's some of the other ones, eHarmony and those sorts of things. So you definitely want to understand what you're getting out of your SEO and what you're doing to actually try to get your search found. So think about what your people would be listening for and what keywords they would want to hear, and then make your blog post about that show keyword keyword friendly for that. It might even be a very specific long tail keyword that you could do, but if you use Yoast, it will help you with that, and it will kind of keep you in between the ditches on your SEO for your page. And then there's other things you can do for your site SEO, but that's why you want show notes. Your show notes are 99% of the time not going to be accessed or read by the listeners of your podcast. There will be those resources that you give out that they will come back sometimes and look up or want to link to, especially if you're offering a freebie or some kind of a discount on something. That's one of those things where you want them to come back and find it, and they want to actually come find your link because they want that discount, or they want that free shipping, or they want that free month, or whatever it is they're getting. So definitely do show notes, but don't make it where it's an overthinking, over analytical process of documenting every single thing, and if it's not done right, you have to go back and continue to revise. It's not that kind of thing. You're not doing dissertation research or anything like that. Yes, Liz, you may ask a question about transcripts. While Liz is composing her question about transcripts, let's talk about one of the misnomers, or one of the things you hear all the time is like people say, oh, we want to put a transcript up on our website because we want it to have the SEO juice. We figure to get more SEO juice with transcripts than just with a blog post, and that's not necessarily true. SEO a lot of times is going with readability and those sorts of things, and transcripts aren't exactly all that readable. The other part is, if you as a podcaster, let me just give you a basic pricing. You're going to pay anywhere from $1 to $1.50 a minute to get a transcript that you could actually put up on your website and have somebody download. So if you have a 30-minute podcast, you're looking at between 30 and I don't even know how to do the math on that, $1 and $1.25 times 30, but you're looking at $30 to $45 just for a transcript, which that's a price that could be paid for some other services that you might want to add to your podcast. And a transcript most of the time is a little bit too much for your average listener. Now, I do know some people that use transcripts in a couple of different ways. And so you might consider using them as a premium, or you might consider using them as an upsell or something like that. Let me see. Liz has got her question in here. So at the bottom of my show notes is an opt-in to get the transcript. Is that fair? I get a lot of opt-ins that way, but wonder if I'm shooting myself in the foot because those are because only those who opt in can read it. No, Liz, I think that's a great idea, because the thing is, you want to make sure if you're paying out for your transcripts, which is a hefty expense when you consider the overall. We do podcast production from soup to nuts for most shows, depending on the length of them and that sort of thing. You're looking at $125 to $150 for everything: the audio editing, show notes, social media, all that kind of stuff. So when you're looking at spending $30 to $45, you're almost spending a third of what full podcast production is just to get a transcript that you can put on your website. If you do, get something out of it, because you want a return on that investment. You want to get something back for those dollars that you spend. Opt-ins are great like that, especially if you have a very detailed, research-based. I have several medical or psychiatry or, other infertility and things that are sort of research-based, where it's very, very technical. And those are the kind of things that you want to give people the option to pay a little bit. Maybe if they want, I've even seen people sell them for a couple bucks on their website, where you want the transcript, you can pay for it. Or you want the transcript, you can opt into my email list, and now you're an email subscriber. The one thing about it is, I would look for a way you can get, even as a podcaster, that you can get even more return on your investment. And that would be one of those things that if you're maybe planning on writing an ebook or something like that later on down the road, what you want to do is use your transcripts. You could basically take your transcripts, and from those extract sections that you could then use in a Scrivener or some other writing app, and then you could pretty much compose an ebook, but your expense of doing the transcripts might already be covered. Or if you're going to write an ebook anyway and you're getting your episodes transcribed for your ebook, then you might want to then go back and offer them as a premium opt-in or something like that. I've had so many people, say, should I get transcripts? Should I not? And my thing is always test it. Every audience is different. Every single, niche is different, and so they're going to be a little bit different. So one of those things you want to do is test it and see. If you put an a button on your website for your transcripts, you should be able to then track it and see how many people are hitting that button. Even if you use heat maps or something like that, if you put something out there so you can track it, and let's just say you do 3 episodes, you offer transcripts for all 3 of them, and 3 months goes by and not one single person has asked you about a transcript or has hit that button on your website, then it's probably not the best use of that resource for your audience. But like Liz says her audience loves transcripts. If they do, and it's that type of a show, sometimes the details and the medical words and especially Liz, I think you're aromatherapy, if I'm not mistaken. If we only had smell-o-vision on here, I would know, right? But if you're doing something that requires a lot of recipes or a lot of mixtures and a lot of just very detailed things that people would not be able to write down on their own, then your audience might really love getting a transcript, and they might be willing to opt in. They might be willing to do that, and then you can bundle them. You could sell them, in packet. Like if you have 3 or 4 shows that are, all on the same type topic and they sort of build on each other. Maybe bundle those transcripts in a bundle and give them, sell them to people versus having them opt in, because that's the other part is, yes, Liz, scientific medical explanations and those sorts of things are good niches for the transcripts, but just normal business and marketing and even hobby and stuff like that is not. But if you look at also one of the other things you want to consider with transcripts is, what can you use them for? So if you're pulling them for your people already and they're using them, you're getting lots of opt-ins that way, see if you can repurpose those transcripts and then do something else with it, whether it's ebooks, whether it's maybe create a lead magnet. Let's see what Pam says. She's an expert on ebooks, so I hate to even mention it without getting her to chime in. So you could also edit your transcripts to place sales links or affiliates wherever you refer to specific items. Yes, that is a very important thing, especially if you're getting transcripts done by a company that does them and sends them back to you. They're not going to have the things that you mentioned linked up in those transcripts, so it's absolutely worth your time to go in. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Pam, because I didn't even mention that in this. But before you put your transcript up for download or for opt-in, go in, and if you're talking about products or you're talking about resources, those things where you are an affiliate of, go ahead and link up that part every time it's mentioned in the transcript. Go ahead and link that to your affiliate resource, so it's mentioned again and again and again and again. Hi, Nikki. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. But if you see those things that are coming up again and again and again, and you can be an affiliate for them, or they can be something you can link to get people back to another resource, link up that transcript. Don't just take it from the company that does your transcript and put it into your thing without going through and linking that kind of thing up. Pam says, and yes, people pay for ebooks because they have to curate loads of content, and they're compiling several related podcast episodes that the transcripts can be of value. Create learning pathways. Yes. I can't see all the rest of the comments, but this is such valuable information, because if you can figure out as a podcaster how to turn those transcripts that are actually a cost for you into either a lead generator or a revenue generator or something that will be components of a revenue generator, then it is completely worthwhile, in my opinion. So maybe you need to make a lead magnet. Maybe you need to start making a bunch of mini courses and you're pulling stuff out of your transcripts. That is absolutely a-okay to do that, and just figure out all the different ways that you can use them. But those are also ways, if you think about it, those are ways that you could actually help leverage someone else's time in order to do something for your podcast. So in other words, if I had all the transcripts written down and it was all of my stuff was, basically one of those, the transcripts were there. It was one of those things where the topics were laid out and I could tell what each topic's transcripts were going to be. I could basically outsource that to any VA or anyone else and say, this is what I want, and those types of things are going to allow someone else to basically come up with the meat of what you're trying to do with an ebook or even your lead magnet or something else like that. And so it's just one of those things where you want to keep an eye on what you can do and what you can leverage out of what you've already created, because once you've already created all of those transcripts or content or niche topics or that sort of thing, at that point you've got the content there. You can turn it over to somebody else to pretty it up, put it in someone like my friend Pam, who does all these ebooks and things, like, can put it in all that format, and you can have all that done, but it doesn't require more of your time because the base content is already there. So it would be one of those things that would be worthwhile if you can meet those criteria. If you can't, I would really test transcripts before you're married to them and see if your audience likes them. If they don't like them, you're going to know it, because you're going to be putting a lot of money into transcripts and no one's going to come back for them. If they do like them, you'll start to see opt-ins. I like the idea of email opt-ins to get transcripts, because they are, in my mind, they're a cost to you, they're a higher upgrade, and you could definitely get to the point where you are getting opt-ins again and again and again from every single time you put out an episode. So all right, well, I hope that's been helpful to you guys. And show notes or something, don't labor yourself to death over, but at the same time, if you can leverage them in such a way to get the SEO juice out of them, and then also using transcripts if they're in your niche and you're in a topic that will definitely help with all of the things that your audience wants. If they want them, give them to them, and then figure out a way to use them and get some revenue, or make them a part of a bigger project on the back end, so you still get something out of them, because that's a resource you can basically keep breaking off little pieces of and putting out there in different ways. So hope that helps. Don't forget to let me know if you have any questions or anything like that you have. I'll be glad to answer them. You can get in touch with me here, and you can get in touch with me on the Team Podcast or the Podcast Rescue Facebook page. You can email me. You can do all those sorts of things. And you know what? I'll also be right back here tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to be right back here tomorrow because no jury duty tomorrow. I'll be back at home working on all the podcasts we have before the holidays. So thank you for joining me for day 17, you guys. If you're in a snowbound area, sorry. Hope you get some warmth coming to you. And if not, just a whole lot of hot chocolate or eggnog or whatever else makes you warm and toasty inside. So, all right, you guys have a good day. We'll talk to you later tomorrow. Bye.